For millennia, one name has been synonymous with monster, Medusa, the snake-haired Gorgon, a creature of absolute terror whose gaze promises an eternity of silent stone. We know her as a villain to be vanquished, a terrifying trophy for a hero's quest. But what if I told you that this entire image is a lie? A masterpiece of divine propaganda, crafted by petty, jealous, and cruel gods to cover up their own unforgivable crime? What if the monster we were taught to fear was, in fact, the story's most tragic victim?
Today, we are not telling the fairy tale of a monster.
We are uncovering the tragedy of a woman. This is the true story of Medusa. Though, to understand the tragedy of Medusa, we must first transport ourselves to a world where gods walked among mortals, a world centered on the magnificent city of Athens. This city was the namesake and prize of its patron, Athena Parthenos, the Virgin, goddess of wisdom, craft, and strategic warfare. At its peak on the Acropolis stood the Parthenon, a gleaming marble testament to her glory, home to her colossal statue of ivory and gold. This temple wasn't just a place of worship, it was the spiritual heart of a civilization, a symbol of Athena's supremacy over her rivals, most notably the eternal rival, Poseidon. Into this world, a society obsessed with physical perfection as a mirror of divine favor, a girl named Medusa was born. She, along with her two sisters, Theno and Euryale, were known as the Gorgons, but fate had drawn a line between them. While her sisters were born as powerful, immortal beings, Medusa was born a fragile mortal. Her compensation from the fates was a beauty so profound it defied description. Her face held a perfect symmetry. Her skin was as smooth as the Parthenon's marble, and her eyes radiated a genuine kindness and intelligence. But her crowning glory was her hair, cascading locks of liquid gold that danced in the Athenian sun, so magnificent that poets fell silent in its presence. Medusa could have leveraged this beauty for power, wealth, or influence, but her heart was not of the material world. She saw her beauty not as a gift to be flaunted, but as the ultimate offering to the divine. She chose to dedicate her life and her beauty to Athena. She became a priestess at the Parthenon, taking a sacred lifelong vow of celibacy. This was the highest act of devotion, a declaration that her physical form was for the glory of the goddess alone. Her life in the temple was one of serene purpose. She found peace in the daily rituals, in the scent of incense curling towards the carved ceilings, in the quiet solitude of the temple's library. She was respected for her piety, not just her appearance. But her beauty was a double-edged sword. It was a burden. Outside the temple, men, from princes to commoners, vied for her attention. Even the gods on Olympus watched her with desire. This attention was a source of constant anxiety for Medusa. It felt like a stain on her sacred vows. She rebuffed all advances politely but firmly, retreating deeper into the sanctum of her goddess, believing that within those holy walls, no harm could ever befall her. It was a faith that would be catastrophically misplaced. That unwanted attention eventually came from the most powerful and dangerous of her admirers, Poseidon, the volatile and untamable ruler of the seas and earthquakes. For a god like Poseidon, the world was his to conquer and its inhabitants his to possess. The concept of rejection was not just foreign, it was an insult. His obsession was fueled by his ancient grudge against Athena. Long ago, they had competed for patronage of this very city. Poseidon offered a saltwater spring. Athena offered the fruitful olive tree. The people chose Athena's gift, and the city bore her name. This humiliation had simmered in Poseidon's pride for ages. Now, seeing Athena's most prized, most beautiful priestess, he saw an opportunity for a dual victory, to satisfy his lust and to defile his rival's most sacred symbol in a single act. His pursuit was not a courtship, it was a psychological campaign of terror. Medusa began to feel his presence everywhere. It was in the sudden chill of the temple's fountains, in nightmares of being swallowed by a great wave, in the salty whisper of a sea wind that found its way through the temple's colonnades. He was a shadow in the corner of her eye, constant anxious in her presence. Her prayers to Athena grew more desperate each night. "O great goddess of wisdom, shield me. Protect me from the gaze of the ocean," she would whisper at the foot of the altar. Then one fateful day his hunt reached its conclusion. Medusa was alone in the main chamber. Suddenly the air grew heavy and humid, the scent of incense choked by the sharp tang of salt and storm. Poseidon manifested before her, not as a majestic god, but as the embodiment of unchecked lust and power. Medusa screamed and ran, fleeing to her only hope, the colossal statue of Athena. She collapsed at its feet, clutching the cold marble, her voice cracking as she pleaded, "Athena, my protector, save me." But the holy walls offered no sanctuary. The golden ceilings did not answer. Poseidon, laughing a laugh like crashing waves, pursued her. Right there, in the most sacred place in all of Athens, under the cold, indifferent gaze of the very statue meant to protect her, the crime was committed. Poseidon took what he wanted, shattering Medusa's vow, her body, and her spirit on the temple floor. When he was done, he vanished as he came, leaving Medusa broken in a deafening silence, her entire world, her faith, her very being utterly destroyed. The silence was broken by a blinding divine light. Athena had arrived. Not with comfort, but with a storm of cold fury. Her form was immense and terrifying, clad in battle armor, her aegis shield shimmering. As she looked down at her broken priestess, she felt no compassion. She felt insulted. In the mind of an immortal god, logic is a twisted thing. Athena saw her temple desecrated, the miasma, the spiritual pollution of Poseidon's act tainting her home. And who was to blame? To punish Poseidon, an Olympian of equal power, would be to invite a war among the gods. It was too messy, too complicated. So Athena chose the easier target, the instrument of her humiliation. "Medusa, you!" Athena's voice boomed, sharp and cold as ice. "You have brought this filth into my home. With that mortal hair you so prize, you have allowed the sea to defile wisdom itself. You will never again tempt the eyes of any man." It was a cruel, devastating logic. Medusa, the victim, was now the accused. Her beauty, which she had dedicated to her goddess, was now her greatest sin. She tried to speak, to beg, but her sobs were drowned out by the goddess's verdict. The punishment began. A masterpiece of divine cruelty designed not just to punish, but to erase every trace of the woman Medusa once was. The curse started with her hair. Her golden crown of glory began to burn. Medusa shrieked as each strand writhed with agonizing life, twisting, thickening, its color darkening to a sickly, scaly green. From each follicle on her scalp, a venomous viper sprouted, hissing and flicking its forked tongue. Her head was now a living nest of horror. Then her skin, its marble smoothness, blistered and hardened into cold reptilian scales. Her fingernails grew into sharp talons. Her face, once the muse of poets, contorted into a mask of eternal rage and pain. Fangs grew from her gums, and finally her eyes. Athena saved the cruelest magic for last. Your eyes that once charmed men will now be their doom. The goddess breathed a terrible ancient power into them. A burning cold filled Medusa's gaze. As she looked up, she accidentally met the eyes of a dove perched by a temple window. Instantly, the bird froze, its feathers turning to brittle stone before it fell and shattered on the floor. The full, unending horror of her fate washed over her. She crawled to a polished bronze shield nearby and saw her reflection for the first time. The thing looking back was a monster. The scream that tore from her throat was no longer human. It was the shriek of a damned soul, a creature betrayed by her god and punished for her own suffering. Exiled from the world of mortals and gods, Medusa fled to the desolate island of Sarpedon at the edge of the world. Her immortal sisters, Theno and Euryale, heartbroken, chose to join her, their loyalty the last shred of family she had left. But her new life was a silent hell. Her curse was absolute and uncontrollable. A curious deer that wandered too close became a permanent statue in the woods. A flock of birds flying overhead, caught by an upward glance, became a rain of stone. A shipwrecked sailor who washed ashore seeking help was met with a petrifying death. Her island slowly became a macabre sculpture garden, a silent gallery of her tragedy. For years, her grief festered. It soured into rage, and that rage crystallized into a diamond-hard hatred. She hated Poseidon for his lust. She hated Athena for her injustice. And she came to hate the mortals, the arrogant, glory-seeking heroes who began arriving at her island, seeking her head as a trophy to prove their valor. They saw a monster to be slain, not a tragedy to be mourned, so she became the monster they wanted. She stopped hiding from her curse, she learned to wield it. She hunted her hunters, turning their arrogant charges into stone warnings for the next to arrive. Her cave became a lair adorned with the statues of failed warriors. She embraced the monster identity as a shield, because being a monster was the only way to survive. Medusa's fate was sealed with the birth of the hero Perseus. His quest, too, was born of the schemes of a deceitful king, Polydectes, who demanded the head of Medusa as an impossible price for the safety of Perseus's mother, Danae. The gods, in their ultimate hypocrisy, rallied to aid him. Hermes gave him winged sandals. Hades gave him the helm of darkness for invisibility. And Athena, in a final cynical act of manipulation, gave him a brightly polished bronze shield and a sword, advising him on how to kill the very creature she had created. Perseus arrived on Sarpedon. He navigated the silent garden of stone heroes, using his shield as a mirror to see the world only in reflection. He found Medusa's cave and saw her within, sleeping amongst the soft hissing of her serpentine hair. In the reflection, he saw the face of the sleeping monster. Perhaps he saw a flicker of the sadness etched there. But he had a mission. There was no epic battle, no duel of heroes. It was a cold, efficient execution. Cloaked in invisibility, he approached the sleeping creature. With one swing of his adamantine sword, he severed her head. But even as her neck was severed, a final miraculous life sprang forth. From her blood were born her 2 children by Poseidon, trapped within her for all these years. Pegasus, the majestic winged horse, and Chrysaor, the giant with a golden sword. Magic, born from brutality. Death should have been Medusa's release. It was not. Her severed head, its petrifying curse still active, was placed in a special satchel. Perseus weaponized her suffering, using her head to turn his enemies, including the sea monster Cetus and King Polydectes, to stone. When his own quest was done, he presented the head to his patron, Athena. The goddess proudly mounted it onto the center of her aegis shield, a symbol of her power, and a final, eternal monument to her betrayal. Even in death, Medusa remained a possession, a weapon, a tool of the gods. The tragedy of Medusa is a chilling circle of abuse. She was punished for being a victim, hunted for being the monster they made her, and exploited as a weapon after her death. Her story forces us to ask a difficult question. If a woman is cursed for her own assault, a god goes unpunished for his crime, and a hero is celebrated for murdering the victim, who is the real monster of the myth? And while Medusa's story ended, remember, she was not alone on that island. Her 2 immortal sisters, Stheno and Euryale, were left behind. Imagine their immortal grief and unending rage, doomed to live forever on an island of stone, mourning the sister they could not protect. Their story is the unheard echo of Medusa's tragedy, a tale of eternal sorrow rarely ever told. Ancient mythology is more than just bedtime stories. It's a complex mirror of our own world, filled with injustice, passion, and hidden truths. To uncover more of the stories behind the myths you thought you knew, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell for more deep dives.